Today, we're going to untangle the dynamics of heaven and hell, and whether or not the two may be something of a choice, with Serpentius being the first demon to get rehabilitated simply because he believed it was possible. My name is Deepcut, friends call me Angel Cut, welcome back to Cartoon Universe, and if you want to see more animated gags like the one at the beginning of this video, check out the video I did where I react to your comments, where we have an animation where I kill off my employees one by one. My name is Deepcut, subscribe, or one of the characters in the background dies. I'll do it, don't test me. Not liking or subscribing just to see what happens. Subscribe or the background characters die. Background characters slowly disappear throughout the video. The threat from his latest video is coming true. We need to unite to protect these employees. Link in the pinned comment down below. Now, when Hazbin Hotel was just a web pilot, the lore was presented as being rather straightforward. There was heaven, there was hell, and you ended up in one or the other, seemingly based on the actions of your living life. That has resulted in the large majority of people making it into hell, unfortunately, with very few people actually making it into heaven. Now, with a first glance of hell, those rules seem to actually fit quite well, as everyone in hell seems pretty sinful on the surface. When you first manifest in hell, you also receive a form that reflects not just your life, but seemingly your sins to some degree, often leading to you having a sort of superpower based off of your sins. Perhaps the most obvious examples of this are among the overlords. Vox is well known as the overlord of television, and while he probably committed all sorts of nasty sins in his earthly life, his powers manifest around screen-based technology. Now, Vox was supposed to die at the height of TV first entering the markets on Earth, and thus he's credited with bringing TV and the new technology as a whole into hell. But it's not just working in TV that gave him his powers. It was the fact that he was so clearly already abusing TV to control the masses during his time on Earth. Without the restrictions of the American government on Earth, in hell, Vox has turned his technology into the ultimate hypnotizing propaganda box, as he already had an outline for how to be this sort of evil with his time on Earth. Then there is Carmilla. She is currently the overlord of angelic weapons, which she doesn't just gather up after exterminations to redistribute, but melts down so she can reshape them into entirely new weapons, outside of the fewer standardized options the Exorcists seem to have. Because of this, Carmilla has massive arms, as in her earthly life she was likely an arms dealer, so to speak, as one commenter pointed out to me. With that in mind, it's easy to imagine that these people were sent down to hell because of the weight of their sins, and that others were able to rise to heaven due to a lack of sins. However, the opening storybook narration from season 1 of the show flips the information from the pilot and the live streams on its head and leaves open other possibilities for how heaven and hell actually work. While good and evil are presented as equal but opposite entities in the Helluverse, only good seems to have made it into the material world at the time of humans being created. Lucifer was an angel, one among the seraphs who seemed to lead in heaven, but his ideas were seen as dangerous by the elders, which seemed to include Sarah, who is the head of the seraphim. This is likely because evil had not made its way into the world yet, and Lucifer's ideas could potentially bring it in. With that in mind, the elders tried to create life without Lucifer. This led to Adam and Lilith, with Lilith fleeing from the garden because she did not want to submit to Adam. Lucifer finds Lilith, and with her help, gives the fruit of forbidden knowledge to Adam's second wife. According to Charlie's storybook, this act is what allowed evil to seep into the material world. For this, Lucifer is described very specifically as being cast into the pit that he created, that pit being hell. This indicates that hell had not existed alongside heaven, and that when evil was brought into the universe, it created hell as a whole. As of now, heaven appears like a moon hovering over hell, which is believed to be much more massive and have room for a lot more people, even if just in the Pride Ring. All of this raises the question of what that other pentagram in the sky is, as well as what heaven's orbit may have been like before hell's existence. Regardless of the nature of heaven before the creation of hell, the creation of hell made it so that not every soul made it into heaven, and that's what's really important for this video. Originally, without a hell, all souls would seemingly go to heaven, or perhaps simply die out if they were not considered pure enough, but I lean towards the idea of all of them going to heaven due to how heaven seems to operate as a whole in the actual show. While hell seems filled with people of very questionable morality, so does heaven, interestingly, which threw a wrench in the idea that there was some sort of cosmic force that was counting people's sins. Of course, the biggest revelation was in episode 6, where we learn that there are not actual rules to what gets you sent to heaven versus hell, and that Sarah has always simply trusted that whoever ended up in heaven was the person she was meant to take care of, whereas those who went to hell were not her problem, and were even okay to be killed if she felt that they could threaten heaven in some way. The most obvious example of this hypocrisy is, of course, Adam, the first man, and also the first soul to manifest in heaven. Adam is consistently portrayed as being an issue in heaven, being at the forefront of murderous rampages against otherwise immortal souls because, as he explains in his song, he finds it extremely entertaining. Even outside of that sadistic mass-murdering mindset, Adam is shown to just generally be a sinful person. He is demeaning to others, he is arrogant in his pride, and the premise of his character is that he is sexist to an absurd degree. Even if he had managed to not act out on his murderous tendencies before going to heaven, it certainly calls into question the way heaven and hell works as a system. And finally, we have Serpentius, who, after a long time in hell of killing even more people than he seemed to on Earth, and having no fear of getting angelic weapons to use en masse on others, suddenly manifested in heaven after dying in hell. Now, Serpentius is perhaps among the greatest example that could have been sent from hell to heaven, because it really emphasizes today's theory, that going to one or the other is essentially a choice. It's based not on your actual sins, but on what you think you deserve. Lucifer gave Eve the forbidden fruit of knowledge in the show, which in the Bible is known as the forbidden fruit of knowledge of good and evil specifically. This teaches humans the idea of good and evil, what it means to sin, leading Adam and Eve to suddenly realize that eating the fruit itself was a sin, but that without the fruit they wouldn't have understood that, which is why they ultimately did it. Now, when Serpentius died in hell, it was after Charlie and the gang had received the claim that all it takes to get into heaven was to act selfless, not steal, and to stick it to the man, a made-up series of silly ideas by Adam himself, who was trying to claim this is how he got into heaven. However, after being selfless and sticking it to the man by trying to fight against Adam to defend his friend, Serpentius ended up in heaven as well. Like Adam, Serpentius doesn't really know why he is there, it seems, but again, like Adam, he probably believes that he is there because he is supposed to be. In the case of Adam, it is pure narcissism. He believes he is the greatest thing alive and of course would deserve heaven as well. Even as he does mass murder on his own descendants, he justifies it. In his mind, he is doing a good deed by exterminating the sinners. With Serpentius, it's less shallow, but a lot more simple-minded. He believed himself to be bound for hell in his earthly life, I imagine, thinking himself as rather villainous with his plans to conquer. But while at the hotel, he likely truly deluded himself into thinking that he could be redeemed, and after seeing an opportunity that would truly allow him to redeem himself in his head, dying for his friends, he would take it. Following this, I believe Serpentius manifested in heaven simply because he now believed that that is what he deserved. When a sinner dies in hell without angelic weaponry, they generally heal or re-manifest entirely in hell, but those people, having already been damned to hell, likely believe themselves to be stuck there forever. All of this would indicate that, like Adam, there are a lot of narcissists in heaven, people who are in many ways no worse than the overlords in hell, who are among the most sinful because of their narcissistic sense of pride. While sinners like Angel Dust may think of themselves as special in a way, they don't have the sense of entitlement that comes with someone like Vox, who thinks they essentially own the world if they have the power to not conquer it, but to exploit the people within it. Their lifestyles are about thinking that they are so important that everyone else there is to be farmed for their benefit, instead of simply seeing themselves as sort of special among equals, as a more grounded person would think of themselves, someone who has talents but who does not believe this means that the others should suffer in order for them to gain pleasure. With how safe and simple heaven is, most of the narcissistic souls who end up there would have no reason to do anything but play social games and elsewise enjoy the pleasures of heaven, not having a power system like in hell that they can exploit there. All of this would be traced back to Lucifer, who, by teaching humans about the nature of good and evil, accidentally created two outcomes for them to feel themselves being drawn to. If this pans out as being true in the show, the fallout is going to be insane, as so many sinners have died for essentially no reason, many of them being perhaps more good than the average angel at the end of the day. While hell as a whole is shown to be corrupt at most every level, people who are empathetic tend to be a lot harder on themselves than people who are narcissistic. Someone who feels other people's pain is more likely to over-examine how their actions may cause pain, and are more likely to be hard on themselves for what are ultimately minor issues. These people are more likely to feel on some level that they are bad, even if they are generally among the nicer people and focus mostly on trying to spread joy and happiness. Their nature is simply to see themselves as not good enough for whatever they come into contact with, because whatever negative effect they could cause weighs on their consciousness. This would create a system where hell is essentially a prison for our most empathetic humans, regardless of their actual sins, where they are taken advantage of by narcissists at the top, with there being even more narcissists in heaven who are there simply because they think they are naturally too good for hell, even if they are absolutely sinful. But what do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you haven't seen it yet, go check out the video where we react to your comments of me killing my employees and having them turn into angels. Those videos are how we pay our animator Aldo, so to get more cool shorts like the one you guys saw at the beginning of the video, go watch that and share it everywhere you can. See you guys there. So we put out a survey asking you which Deepcut should ImpCut fear the most. Your choices were Deepcat because he has 9 lives, Deep Puff because he can put you to sleep, KFC Cut, too many herbs and spices, or 3 Deepcut. I'm 3 Deepcut, your YouTube. Welcome back to Cartoon Universe. 3 Deepcut for sure. 3 Deepcut is scary. 3 Deepcut is absolutely terrifying. The rest are 2D, so 3 Deepcut has the advantage of being able to move in a dimension completely undetectable to other Deepcuts. He is truly a horror beyond comprehension. 3 Deepcut has the enormous advantage of being a higher dimensional being capable of paranormal and eldritch actions compared to his 2D counterparts. 3 Deepcut has the power of anime and the uncanny valley by his side.